Okay, I Was Anastasia by Ariel Lawhon. This sounds really interesting. Countless others have rendered their verdict. Now it is your turn. Russia, July 17th, 1918. Under direct orders from Vladimir Lenin, Bolshevik secret police force, Anastasia Romanov, along with the entire imperial family, into a damp basement in Siberia where they face a merciless firing squad. None survive. At least that is what the executioners have always claimed. Germany, February 17th, 1920. A young woman bearing an uncanny resemblance to Anastasia Romanov is pulled shivering and senseless from a canal in Berlin. Refusing to explain her presence in the freezing water, she is taken to the hospital where an examination reveals that her body is riddled with countless horrific scars. When she finally does speak, this frightened, mysterious woman claims to be the Russian Grand Duchess Anastasia. Her detractors, convinced that the young woman is only after the immense Romanov fortune, insist on calling her by a different name, Anna Anderson. So that sounds really interesting. Cop to Corpse by Peter Lovesey. I've been loving this series, this Peter Diamond series. He is a detective in Bath in England, and I've been making my way through the series, and this is the next one up. In this case, he is investigating police officers who are being shot. So this sounds really interesting. The Dark Lantern by Gerri Brightwell. This, London, 1893. Elderly Mrs. Bentley is on her deathbed and her son Robert has returned from France. But in the Bentleys' well-appointed home, everyone has their secrets, including Robert's beautiful and elusive wife, the orphan maid she hires from the country, and the mysterious young woman who arrives, claiming to be the bride of Robert's drowned brother. Hum If You Don't Know the Words by Bianca Marais. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say this. I picked this up again for my Around the World Reading Challenge. It's set in South Africa and during the 70s, so during apartheid in South Africa, and it just sounds really interesting. Here's another Joan Aiken, Eliza's Daughters, a sequel to Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility. So again, I love that she wrote all these books that are like sequels or telling the story of a different character from Jane Austen's books. So I'm interested to see what these are like. And here's one more, Mansfield Revisited, a sequel to Jane Austen's Mansfield Park. And then Jasper Fforde's First Among Sequels. This is a Thursday Next book. I've been making my way through this series as well. I quite enjoy this series. It is so quirky, hard to describe, but Thursday Next is a literary detective in England. It's set during the 80s, but it is, I would say, let's say this is an alternate universe for sure. But these are really fun, really quirky detective stories. Robert Morrison, The Regency Years, during which Jane Austen writes, Napoleon fights, Byron makes love, and Britain becomes modern. This is a non-fiction history about this era. The Victorians are often credited with ushering in our current era, yet the seeds of change were planted in the years before. The Regency, 1811 to 1820, began when the profligate Prince of Wales, that was hard to say, the future King George IV replaced his insane father George III as Britain's ruler. Around the regent surged a society steeped in contrasts: evangelicalism and hedonism, elegance and brutality, exuberance and despair. The arts flourished at this time with a showcase of extraordinary writers and painters such as Jane Austen, Lord Byron, the Shelleys, John Constable, and J.M.W. Turner. Science burgeoned during this decade too, giving us the steam locomotive and the blueprint for the modern computer. Yet the dark side of the era was visible in poverty, slavery, pornography, opium, and the Gothic imaginings that birthed the novel Frankenstein. With the British military in foreign lands fighting the Napoleonic Wars in Europe and the War of 1812 in the United States, the desire for empire and an expanding colonial enterprise gained unstoppable momentum. Exploring these cross currents, Robert Morrison illuminates the profound ways this period shaped and indelibly marked the modern world. So yeah, this sounded just really interesting. And Robert Morrison, I've never read anything by him, but he is actually a Canadian writer. He is a fellow of the Royal Society of Canada and lives in Ontario. Oh, we're getting close to the end here. The Secret Guests by Benjamin Black. He has written the Quark series that take place in the 1950s in Ireland. And this one just sounded really interesting. This is a new book, published in 2020. As London endures nightly German bombings, Britain's Secret Service whisks the young princesses Elizabeth and Margaret from England, seeking safety for the royal heirs on an old estate in Ireland. Ahead of the German Blitz during World War II, English parents from every social class sent their children to the countryside for safety, displacing more than 3 million young offspring. In The Secret Guests, the British royal family takes this evacuation a step further, secretly moving the princesses out of England entirely to the estate of the Duke of Edinburgh in neutral Ireland. A female English secret agent, Miss Celia Nash, and a young Irish detective, Garda Strafford, are assigned to watch over Ellen and Mary at Clonmillis Hall. But the Irish stable hand, the housemaid, the formidable housekeeper, the Duke himself, and other Irish townspeople, some of whom lost family to English gunshots during the War of Independence, go freely about their business in and around the great house. Soon suspicions about the guests' true identities percolate. A dangerous boredom sets in for the princesses, and within and without the Clonmillis acreage, passions as well as stakes rise. Benjamin Black, who has good information that the princesses were indeed in Ireland for a time during the Blitz, draws readers into a novel as fascinating as the nascent career of Miss Nash, as tender as the homesickness of the sisters, as intriguing as Irish-English relations during World War II, and as suspenseful and ultimately action-packed as the war itself. This is The Case of the Missing Books by Iain Sansom. It's a mobile library mystery. It's about this character, Israel Armstrong, is sent to Ireland. He thinks he's going to be working in a library, but he ends up driving a mobile library van around the area. I think it's Antrim in Ireland, North Antrim coast. Only he discovers that 15,000 books for this mobile library have been stolen. So he needs to find these books. It sounds actually quite humorous. Spitfire, a Livy Nash mystery by M.LHuie. This is after World War II. How far would you go for vengeance? It's VE Day 1946 in London. World War II is long over, and the former spy Livy Nash is celebrating with her third drink before noon. She went to war to kill Nazis. Dropped behind enemy lines as a courier, she quickly became one of the toughest agents in France. But her war ended with betrayal and the execution of the man she loved. Now Livy spends her days proofreading a demeaning advice column for little ladies at home and her nights alone with black market vodka. But everything changes when she meets the infamous Ian Fleming. The man who will create the world's most sophisticated secret agent has an agenda of his own and sends Livy back to France with one task: track down the traitor who killed the only man she ever loved. Livy jumps at the chance, heading back to Paris undercover as a journalist. But the City of Lights is teeming with spies, and Livy quickly learns just how much the game has changed. With enemies on every corner and ever-shifting alliances, she'll have to learn to fight a new war if she wants to conquer the past once and for all. And then an Ian Pears called Stones Fall. Ian Pears wrote an instance of the finger post that I just read that was so good. He also has a series that are set in Italy about a woman who works for the art theft squad, which is quite good as well. This one is another vast historical mystery set that is almost 600 pages long. In his most dazzling novel since the groundbreaking An Instance of the Finger Post, Iain Pears tells the story of John Stone, financier and arms dealer, a man so wealthy that in the years before World War I, he was able to manipulate markets, industries, and indeed entire countries and continents. A panoramic novel with a riveting mystery at its heart, Stone's Fall seeks to discover why John Stone dies, falling out of a window at his London home. The story moves backward from London in 1809 to Paris in 1890, London 1909, Paris 1890, and finally to Venice in 1867, and plays out amidst the evolution of high-stakes international finance, Europe's first great age of espionage, and the start of the 20th century arms race. A love story, a quest, and a mystery, Stone's Fall is an intricately plotted and richly satisfying puzzle, an erudite wedding of history and fiction that feels utterly true and uncannily timely, and marks the triumphant return of one of the world's great storytellers. And this was from 2009. And then finally, Louise Penny, A Better Man. This is her most recent book, I think, from 2019. But look at the end pages. Isn't that nice? With the 3 pines there. So this is the latest in the Armand Gamache series, and I have a funny story about this book. So months ago, I was at our central library downtown for my mystery book club that meets once a month, and I saw this book in the popular picks, and so I grabbed it and brought it home to read, only to discover I already had the book out from the library and I just forgot. So now I had 2 copies of this book. So I returned what I thought was 1 copy of the book, but in the end I must have returned both of them because I never actually read it. So I don't know how I managed to have 2 copies of the book out from the library and then never actually read the book. So I've got it out again, and I will read it this time because I really enjoy the Armand Gamache series. So that was my huge, massive library book haul. I hope you enjoyed that. Have you read any of these books? Do any of these books look interesting to you? Let me know down in the comment section below. I love to chat about books. And I'll see you for another video soon. Bye!